Strength in the Shadows, the podcast where we fearlessly navigate the art of building discipline, cultivating grit, mastering resilience, and unlocking true potential. Surpass your limits and join us on this journey of transformation as we unapologetically explore the intersection of fitness, mindset, and unwavering accountability. Welcome, my friend. Let's go. So we're going to have a lot of fun with this episode here. This is absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. You can't make it up. And this is one of my all-time favorite sea stories that I ever had while active duty as an officer in the Navy. And the other day, right, two young men were very, very curious about my time in the Navy. They gave me a call. They were thirsty for some Navy knowledge, right? And they were asking about ships and culture and specifically compartments, right? And if any funny business, so to speak, happened in the compartments of ships. For those civilians out there, right, compartments are essentially rooms on board a ship. There's a lot of them, depending, of course, on how big the ship is. Oftentimes, right, there's spaces in there maybe for engineering or weaponry, right, ammo, or maybe, for example, there's just nothing in there and it's not being utilized at that time. So you can imagine, right, if a ship's out to sea for 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days, oftentimes maybe two humans find themselves in there and they get after it for a little bit of cardio, so to speak, if you know what I mean. Now, these two gentlemen were asking me if I had any experience in these compartments or if I had ever had any funny business. And unfortunately, I guess no. I was a good old boy, so I had nothing to report. But this one story I have, right, it doesn't involve me, but this did happen on my ship. And the Navy Times would have loved to get their hands on this story. You cannot make it up, so let's get into it. Well, on my first ship, an amazing crew. I had two amazing captains, but the second one especially, the one before I left, unreal. Really great dude. He ran a tight ship, but he was well respected, and he took care of his people. Loved all the sailors, especially the second half of that tour. Loved the officers in the wardroom. It was a very good time. Well, on a ship, right, there's an evolution called General Quarters, right? Shorthand, GQ. So if GQ ever gets called on the speaker system, right, everyone runs to their designated system, right? Or their designated station, and they have a job to do, right? Usually, for example, if the ship got hit with a missile, right? Boom, GQ, everyone reports to their duty station there on the ship to tackle the casualty or to basically fight the good old fight. And I guess in this situation, right, one of the officers in the wardroom didn't have a station for GQ. He had no designated area to go to. So typically you would imagine, right, he would just stay in his stateroom, right? He would stay in his rack, or he would stay in his room or inside his bed. Get an extra nap, right? Let the sailors or let the crew do their GQ training. Boom. Hour or two off, no problem. However, this one gentleman, he was actually a really good dude. I liked him, right? But he fucked up. He really fucked up. So during GQ, he had no station. And instead of going to his room, for whatever reason, right, he decided to go to the aviation storeroom. A miscellaneous compartment right there on the ship was supposed to be empty during GQ. And he goes inside that compartment and he looks around, right, left and right. No one's in there. Shuts the door, right, locks it. Zip! Unzips his trousers. What the? Yeah, you guessed it. He unzips his pants and starts getting after it. He starts tackling his dick like a monkey on Thanksgiving. He's going wild. Well, you may have thought it was just him, right? In the aviation storeroom. Well, unfortunately, for two or three souls, they were unlucky and it was bad timing. When this officer comes in and starts getting after it, there are actually two or three sailors that were trying to catch some Z's, right? They needed some rack time or they needed some sleep. And so they went into the corner of the aviation storeroom and they're sleeping when all of a sudden this guy comes in, shuts the door. They're not supposed to be in there, right? And they're also not supposed to be sleeping. And so sure enough, they're in the shadows, right? Strength in the shadows? They're in the shadows, and they're covering their mouth, trying to stay silent, as they have a front row view of this gentleman going absolutely apeshit on his penis. Well, unfortunately, one of the sailors couldn't keep their mouth shut. Ah, 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 choo! Boom! Cover is blown. He sneezes, he makes a noise, and boom, the officer turns around, right? Must have blown a load on the wall as soon as that sneeze came through. And the sailors, right? They promise, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. Hey, we didn't see really anything here. I promise nobody will know. We won't say a damn word." Well, unfortunately, right? Loose lips sink ships. And within 10 minutes, half of the ship knew about what had just happened, right? And so, boom, an hour or two later, the captain of the ship finds out or gets word. And dude, how embarrassing. How humiliating. I mean, you have to ask yourself, why didn't he just go to his stateroom, right? His room there. Or just close the curtains on his rack if he really needed to drain the sea monster, so to speak, right? No idea. Can't explain it. Have never got any answers. But sure enough, right? The captain ends up holding, I don't want to call it a captain's mask. I actually can't think of the term. But essentially, it's almost like a court hearing or where leadership or chiefs and officers essentially get into the wardroom, right? And they basically debrief the incident, and the captain, as a measure of example, gives a punishment, right? Right there in front of everybody. And so sure enough, right, the captain steps in, very calm, very cool demeanor. But as he started to conclude the hearing, right, and he lists the punishment, his voice, right, his tone, just slowly but surely rises, and he just goes apeshit. He says to the officer, right, who was a lieutenant junior grade at the time, "Lieutenant junior grade, because you decided to ejaculate on my ship, you're going to clean the aviation storeroom from the deck to the bulkhead to the overhead. And you're not leaving this damn ship for 30 or 45 days. Get in here." Right? So I don't exactly remember if it was 30 days or 45 days, but he was on the ship. He was restricted to the ship for at least a month. He could not leave. And he was so embarrassed, right? I would be too. I mean, Jesus. He was so embarrassed. He did not leave his room for 30 straight days. Oh, what about food? How did he eat? Did he go to the wardroom and pick something up to go, or maybe just do a straight fast for 30 days? No, he still ate, but someone had to deliver the food to him. They would come to his door, place the tray on the ground, knock, knock, and all of a sudden the door would open 1 or 2 inches, right? And a little hand would come out, grab the plate, boom, shut the door, and no one ever saw this brother for a month straight. Not only did the wardroom, right, or all the officers and sailors not see this young man, but also his wife. Yes, he was married. And part of him getting married, right, was also being able to bring his wife to Japan for his next set of orders. He received an awesome selection, right? He was going to a great command, advancing his career. He was a good officer. He did a great job. I really liked him. But damn, dude, he just screwed up, and sometimes people need to learn the hard way. So to get back to the wife, right? Unfortunately, right, we talk about communication. We talk about honesty. Unfortunately, he could not break it to his wife on why he was unable to leave the ship, on why he was not able to leave work for 30 straight days. He didn't have it in him. And sure enough, no one else had it in them as well. So I know some people that got off the ship, and there was his wife. outside the gates, right there on base, crying and asking, "Where's my husband? What's going on?" He said he's busy with work. Oh, he was busy, all right. So she never found out because no one had the heart to break it to her that this dude may have had an issue. I have no idea. I can't explain it. I'm not into that type of stuff. But who thought it was a good idea to go to an empty space on the ship, or really any room on the ship, and blow a load on the wall? I mean, it's hilarious. It's funny now. But can you imagine being him? Can you imagine being one of his sailors and that was your officer, right? Your leader? I can only imagine the nicknames that the enlisted had given this guy. And unfortunately, right, his orders to Japan, they got canceled, right? Boom, done. And believe it or not, the captain of the ship, who takes the Navy very seriously, as he should, and leads by example, he was one of the best men I had ever met, a great leader. He decided to take it into his own hands, right? He ended up getting this guy processed out of the Navy. And that was it. I don't know if he got an honorable discharge. I don't know if he got a dishonorable discharge, right? No idea, no clue. That's the paperwork. We can ask him. But for the most part, man, yeah, that ended his career, right? Because you can only imagine, I guess, right? At his next command, with how sea stories or, the word spreads very, very quickly across the world when you're in the Navy or in the military, right? His next command or his sailors would have absolutely gotten word that this had happened to him or he had done this to himself or, the bulkhead of the ship, so to speak, on his previous command, right? His previous ship. No bueno, not good, right? So he got processed out of the Navy. I believe he's still married. I think he has a kid now and is doing very well. But I think we can all learn a lesson there, right? That there are some things that just belong in the privacy of maybe your own home. Or at the very least, right? Maybe in your bed with the curtains closed. Not during GQ on a warship as an active duty officer in uniform. So, with that, hopefully you got a good chuckle. Can't make it up. Everything I just said is facts. I take no pleasure or joy in telling that story, but at the same time, I absolutely love it. And so you can come up with a nickname yourself for this young lieutenant junior grade. Luckily enough, nothing like that ever happened to me in the Navy, but makes for a good sea story. Enjoy. As we come to a close, I would like to express my sincere appreciation to each and every one of you for joining us on this transformative journey. If you found value in our discussions and stories, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review for my podcast. Your reviews not only fuel my passion for creating meaningful content, but also allow others to discover this empowering space. Your support truly makes a difference. All links are in the description. Thank you for being an essential part of this dynamic community. Goodbye for now, and remember, keep going.